The Eastern Suburbs Law Society's Lawyers Learning for Charity Conference is back at last on Saturday, the 5th of March, 2022. It's 7 CLE points, including the 3 compulsories, and we have some fantastic speakers lined up. The charity we're supporting this year is a local organisation called the Lokahi Foundation, which provides support to women and children who are suffering the effects of family and domestic violence. I'm joined now by Rachel Natoli, the founder of the organisation, to tell us a little bit about the work that they do. Rachel, can you tell me a bit about how the organisation came to be?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jennifer. It's lovely to see you. So basically, I was in a long-term domestic and family abuse relationship, which unfortunately I was in for almost 8 years, and that included physical, emotional, sexual, and financial abuse. And I left my ex-husband in 2015 with my 2.5-year-old twins. We proceeded to have 5 different homes within 7 weeks. We lived in crisis accommodation for 3.5 weeks. We moved to a motel. We stayed at a friend of a friend's. And when we finally resettled into our new home and felt that we were once again safe and able to start moving on with our lives, I really felt that the one person that had allowed us to get through that time and survive and to begin thriving in our new life was my caseworker. And I'd been assigned a caseworker from a local organisation in the Eastern Suburbs. And when I left the Eastern Suburbs for a couple of years to start again, what I realised was she wasn't allowed to be my caseworker anymore because I was no longer in the area. Now, she was fantastic and still stayed in touch with me, but it really broke my heart that there may be so many other women out there that weren't able to have those relationships with their caseworkers once they'd left that area. And so because of how fantastic she was and how strong she'd helped us to be through such a tumultuous time, I decided to set up the Lokahi Foundation to provide caseworkers to women and children that were in or leaving domestic and family abuse, and we wouldn't have those barriers. So we're based in the Eastern Suburbs. Our clients are generally based in the Eastern Suburbs, but if they need to leave the Eastern Suburbs for affordability purposes, for safety purposes, to go and be closer to family or friends, we will still continue to support them. And we have no time limit on how long we'll support them for, because we know it takes 2 to 3 years for us to actually see women get back on their feet and really become empowered again. And make an appointment for them to come in and then find out what's going on for them and what kind of support they need. And then they would be assigned a caseworker. And the caseworker works holistically with them. They may need help with housing. They may need help with legal issues. They may need food, clothing. It can be anything that they need help with. They might have financial issues. And basically the caseworker is guiding them through all of the services that are out there and making referrals where necessary so that we can get them whatever it is they need as quickly as possible so that they can start to rebuild.
How many caseworkers do you have at the moment?
So at the moment, we've got 3 caseworkers. They're all part-time. One works 4 days and the others work 2 and 3 days. But by the end of this year, we'd like to be at the point where we can have them all working 4 days, which is almost full-time and allows them to have a day to kind of recover from what is quite a heavy topic to be dealing with on a daily basis.
So any funding that you can receive will assist you to pay these caseworkers and to keep your organisation going. Do you have any kind of goals that you see for expanding into the future?
Yeah, absolutely. So any funding that we get goes directly to supporting our caseworkers to keep doing the fantastic job that they're doing. And we opened our office in January this year in Bondi Junction. And it's quite a small office, but was perfect for what we needed. And I'm so proud to say that we've already outgrown it. We were at capacity with clients within our first 3 months of employing our caseworkers. So we now have a waiting list of people women and their children waiting for us to be able to provide a caseworker to them, which is great news in terms of our service being required, but not so great for those that need our support right now. So at the end of the year, we'd like to increase the time our caseworkers are working for, but also move into a bigger office. And then as we move through next year, I'd really like to bring on board a couple more caseworkers. And long term, the goal is to replicate the service in other areas. So I think our next target area would be the Lower North Shore, where we see a very similar type of client in terms of it being a more affluent area, and therefore not so much reported domestic violence to police, because it tends to be a little less physical, although there's still plenty of physical violence, but much more emotional and financial abuse, which is what takes much longer to recover from.
And look, your audience here is lawyers. So something that I'm really interested in is what you see as to what we could be doing as lawyers better to assist women who are in this position, and what difficulties these women face in accessing the legal system.
So I think one of the main things that lawyers can do to help themselves and therefore potential or current clients is to make sure that they have some kind of DV training, that they understand what the different forms of domestic and family abuse look like. I can't tell you the number of lawyers that I've spoken to, even those that are supposed to be specialist DV lawyers, that really don't get the coercive control aspects of domestic abuse and how that can continue long after the relationship's broken down. In terms of how they can actually help, I feel really passionately that the biggest barrier to victim survivors seeking legal representation is money. It's a funding issue. And, obviously we have legal aid for those that don't have the capacity to afford a lawyer. But for those that are in between, where they are possibly working or making enough money that they can afford to pay their rent and afford their bills or food, but they can't afford anything else. We see a lot of those clients having to self-represent because then they don't qualify for legal aid, but they can't afford to pay for a lawyer. What I'd love to see long term is that every family law firm out there actually allowed their lawyers to take on one pro bono client each a year. That would make such a huge difference. And those clients could be referred from domestic violence services so that it wasn't up to the law firms to make a decision about who best needed their help.
I imagine there's a level of fear as well for these women in seeking out a lawyer's assistance, and perhaps some confusion on their part as well when they've spent so many years being told that they're wrong, to actually have the confidence and be able to see what the correct information is and what they should be telling their lawyers.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, there's a huge trust issue. When you've been in a domestic and family violence relationship, you're not as trusting. So it's important that you have a good, healthy, trusting relationship with your lawyer. And again, that comes back to the DV training, to know that they understand what you've been through and are able to help you to navigate what it is that's going to be best for your children and you.
Is that something that you help with your clients, with dealing with the lawyers and encouraging them and speaking to the clients once you've got their trust and telling them what's relevant to pass on to their lawyers?
Yeah, sometimes we will go through that stuff. We certainly offer court support. Obviously, we try and encourage most of our clients to go through legal aid, just because most of them aren't in a financial position to afford a lawyer. But it's also about making sure that if they do get some advice from a lawyer, they are specific about what it is that they need, so that that they don't take up too much time, but also so that they're not re-traumatized by telling their full story over and over again.
Absolutely. Okay, well, look, thank you so much for the fantastic work that you do, Rachel, and we're really pleased to be supporting your organisation. So it's the 5th of March 2022, the Lawyers Learning for Charity Conference, to be held at the Crown Plaza in Coogee. I hope to see you all there.
Thanks for supporting us. We really appreciate it. We'll see you there.